Abomination. Fusing together the speed and consistency of Snake Eye, the playstyle of Sprite, and the power of Zodiac, and a touch of one card combo in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And I bring forth my newest abomination, Ryzeal. Hey guys, this is Tom Boggs, and today we're gonna learn how to beat Ryzeal. So, we're gonna break down the deck for you guys, talk about things that you should be stopping, cards that you should side in to destroy them, and even some restrictions so that you don't get screwed over by people stop cheating against you. Well, keep in mind, if you like what you see, please give me a like. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and let's go. Alright, main deck monsters. Ice Ryzeal, the diva of the deck. Normal summon to special summon out a Ryzeal from the deck. You can also special summon this card from your hand by sending a card from your hand or field to the graveyard. This means if it cleared out your own stuff, and it does put you under the Ryzeal restriction. The normal summon effect, however, does not. Next, we have X Ryzeal, one of two strategies of the deck. This one searches for Fire Thunder monsters. You can special summon this card by sending from your extra deck one Xyz monster to the graveyard. You can send Mirror Logic Aggregate or other Ryzeal monsters so that you can facilitate other plays. Now, the on-summon effect, you can't actually search if you control a non-Ryzeal monster, so keep it kind of pure on the field. This is the guy that's kind of like that rich uncle with a particular purist viewpoint that won't cooperate with other archetypes. Then we have Sword Ryzeal, the other stratus of the deck. This one searches for light pyro monsters, and you can special summon this card as long as there's a Ryzeal that is on the field or in the graveyard. And this one doesn't have that particular viewpoint. Finally, we have Node Ryzeal. This is the Wolf Bark of the deck. You can special summon back one of your Ryzeal monsters as long as you're able to pay the cost of sending one card on your side of the field or from your hand to the graveyard to summon back another Ryzeal monster from the grave. Now, that monster technically is going to be negated, and the way that you can special summon out this card is as long as there is an Xyz monster on your side of the field or in your graveyard, it's a free special summon from hand. But Tom, you forgot about the other one. Okay, fine. There's Palm Ryzeal. The effect is to fill up pack space and the continuous effect of being in your bulk box. The actual effect is that it shuffles back to summon itself out and has a damaged foolish burial effect to gain attack. That's it. Happy now? Onto the spells and traps. There's two spells and one trap we care about. Firstly, Ryzeal Cross, the field spell, the monster effect negation power creep. Because on resolution, you can negate one monster effect by detaching a material from a Ryzeal Xyz monster you control. And since it's on resolution, that means the chain's already resolving, and at the point of resolution, right at the effect that you don't like, doesn't matter which part of the chain it is, because this card does not activate, it will just detach a material just to negate it. It's kind of like a continuous effect. I don't know. It feels continuous because it's not part of the chain. And the other effect is that you can bottom deck two cards of two of your Ryzeal cards and draw one card. And even if you do banish one of those cards, it's still going to draw because it contains the wording them rather than both those cards. And that's why they're still going to draw. Ryzeal plugin, essentially a quick play monster reborn for Ryzeal or Xyz monster, but it can also target cards in the banish as well. In addition to that, once you resolve this effect, you can also attach one Ryzeal card from your deck and attach it to any Xyz monster on your side of the field, and that's how you reload some of your monsters to reuse some of the effects. And then the trap card, Ryzeal Plasma Hole. Alright, we're getting this one out of our system right now. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice if you could activate, plug in that hole with a hole thruster? I get it. The name change was likely changed because of commentating purposes, as well as probably saved a lot of people from getting banned on Twitch chat, especially when you're watching the live stream. So what does it do? You target face-up cards up to the number of Xyz Ryzeal monsters you control, and you pop them. So that's essentially what it does. But the graveyard effect allows you to perform a quick Xyz summon as long as you use a Ryzeal monster to do so. So you can use this kind of quick dodge effect sometimes and maybe remake some of the monsters during your opponent's turn, especially when they turn off all your monsters. If you get hit by a D barrier while playing Ryzeals, then this is the card that you want in the graveyard. Just load your board full of monsters and then use this card to just make your detonator during the opponent's turn. And for the extra deck, we have Dual Drive and Detonator. Dual Drive is the combo piece, the gigantic sprite of the deck. Now, you can use this effect to add two of the Ryzeal cards from your deck to your hand, but it requires you to detach two material, and that's by effect, not by cost. So if the card gets removed off the field, or there isn't enough materials on the field for whatever particular reason it is, then you will not be able to get that search. So you can get Ogred, and all of a sudden, you won't be able to get the Dual Drive. But even if you get Ogred, if you have another Xyz monster with two materials, you can detach from there, and you still get that search, which works lovely for you. The other thing about this card is that it has a Chen-Ying-like effect. For every material that it has attached, all of the monsters that you control will gain 100 attack, and all of your opponent's monster will lose 100 attack for every material that's attached to the Dual Drive. And essentially, this is a Ryzeal Cross's ATM card because they're likely going to detach off of this card to pay for negations. And we have Detonator, the boss monster of the deck that you're always going to summon. It's your go-to flex spot that you're always going to pivot to, especially get hit by too many hand traps. So this is the one, 3000 beat stick. It detaches one to protect all your Xyz monster, but what makes this monster so annoying, aside from self-protection and protecting its friends, is that as a non-once per turn, non-once per chain Trident-like effect that hits any card on the field, not just face-ups, and at the speed of SP. Essentially, it has to respond to your opponent's activation of a card or effect, and it can chain to destroy any cards. Since it's not once per chain, if you try to negate it, it'll just chain again, and that's why it's super annoying. It usually wins on most timing chains, and yeah, people are going to feel that this is going to be very annoying, like the Jake Paul of Xyz monster, aka this is the problem child. Or if you're into Hunter x Hunter, you can consider it like Genthru, like Bomber, you know, the guy from Greed Island. Yeah, except that he's already touched all your cards, so everything's ready to blow up. Alright, so that wasn't so bad, so how do we beat them? Two parts of this: one, stuff that you're gonna need to stop within your own engine, and two, cards that you can use later on post side so you can completely cripple this matchup. So there's 4 cards that you need to stop in this particular matchup: 1 Duo Drive, 2 Detonator, 3 Ryzeal Cross, 4 Ryzeal Plug-in, and it's kind of in that particular priority. And then 5th, if you really want to, in the simplified games, that you should stop the main deck monsters in case they make themselves a Detonator. Okay, that's like the one time you would try to stop the main deck monsters. Otherwise, it's really pointless for the most cases. So starting off with Duo Drive, you want to stop this because it prevents 3 things from occurring. 1, a card draw. 2, the plugin that lets them a free special. And then there's also the monster effect negation during your turn or during their turn. Basically, a monster effect negation. 3 big interactions here, because now if they want to go into a Detonator, they have to commit actual cards to get there. And if they don't have the cards, they're not going to be able to get there. Likely they already have the pieces to get there, but they want to not expend resources and recover resources so that they get more cards to play when the turn comes back to them. So that's the key thing here. That's why stopping Dual Drive is such a big part of it. And when you have to answer their board, you don't have to deal with that negation, that field spell, which makes life a whole lot easier. In terms of how you stop it: Ghost Ogre, Imperm, Ash, Effect Veiler, Ghost Mourner. Mourner is a little bit weird because if they don't have the field spell up at the time, they can try to make another copy and then try it again. And at that point, if they do it, they can get Node. And once they get to Node, they can send away one of the additional Duo Drives on the field so that they can make the Detonator that way. So it might not always work. In terms of their counterplay, Detonator can protect from destruction from the Ogre. Starleech Photon Blast Dragon protects it from targeting, so your Veiler, Imperm, and Ogre, because you can't destroy any monster with 2,000 or more attack. And there's also Ryzeal Plasma. Kind of dodges the same stuff because it overlays on top of the Duo Drive. And once they overlay on top of the Duo Drive, the target's missing. You can't destroy it because it's not the same card, and therefore they can still detach a material because it's detaching by effect from any monster. That's the Duo Drive effect, okay? The thing that you have to stop. And then there's Detonator, a card that you want to turn off during your own turn, especially if you want to keep anything on the field. Everything you play is essentially temporary because it's like the bolt that's rolling behind you and destroying everything. As you activate cards, it's blowing up your card. So it makes it very difficult. So if Imperm's the only hand trap you have to consider the option of saving that card, letting the Duo Drive go off, and then hit the Detonator during your turn so that you're able to keep your cards. Because it's 3 destructions versus 1 negation, essentially. So you gotta weigh your options when it comes to that. But maybe you can deal with the Detonator destruction and you don't want to deal with the cross negation, then yeah, you can hit the Duo Drive in that case. But I think you should be hitting the Detonator. Alternatively, use cards that send directly to graveyard rather than destruction. So Bestial Druisworm is an ideal card, a 3 of almost to take care of this particular matchup, because there's almost nothing they can do to protect it aside from Abyss Dweller and Starleech Photon Blast Dragon, and those require them to commit additional 2 cards to make it. So this is one card that you should be turning off so you can play. Book of Moon, anything, just turn the card off. For Ryzeal Cross, for obvious reasons, you don't want that monster negate to get in front of you, so Ryzeal Cross Cosmic Cyclone just to get rid of it. Use your own Mirror Logic Aggregate to force the negation out. Anything just so that you don't have to deal with it during the chain that matters to you most. And as for Ryzeal Plugin, you can remove this target if you can. Typically, if you try to hit away their node, you prevent yourself from getting hit by a Detonator in the early setup play. But later on, if a Detonator is already in the graveyard, they could just summon back the Detonator, attach materials under it, and now you have to deal with like a fully refreshed Detonator that has its active effect, and it's pretty devastating. So those are some of the things that you keep aware of, and keep in mind that this is still a rank 4 toolbox deck. They can still use this particular opportunity to summon an extra level 4 body to make it like an excitement and blow up your entire field. Alright, looking at post side, the good cards. Book of Eclipse. So this turns off the Ryzeal Detonator and the Ryzeal Cross. So it's a complete blowout if you can just resolve this card. However, they have counterplays such as Ash Blossom because well, Book of Eclipse draws a card, and Solemn Judgment. Alternatively, they also have a set Ryzeal plugin that can also counter this entire play by chaining their own detonator onto their own card, blowing it up, and then they'll plug it back in, summoning it back, attaching material from the deck, and then detonator will attach another material from the graveyard. So that makes everything live again, including the field spell. If you don't want that interaction, then there's also Ultimate Slayer, sending a Meteorologic Aggregator, turning off the field spell, and also getting rid of the detonator. Same thing, except that it's a little bit more foolproof, but it still gets negated by Solemn Judgment. Forbid Droplet, fantastic card, negates the detonator, prevents it from self-destructing as well, and maybe even winning on certain chain interactions, so you can negate multiple cards. Counterplay, again, well, maybe Solemn Judgment, but in other cases, they can still detach the Meteorologic Aggregator and the Ryzeal Cross is still active. Evenly matched, except for people playing Malice, because they will side Lancia against you. It clears everything but Detonator, so you still have to eat the Detonator, but at least it's a lot easier, right? And maybe we can force a random trade off of that particular card as well. Solemn Judgment is also a way to counter this, and some people side a second Ryzeal Cross so they can get the cross back, and I've seen that in some OCG lists as well. Then there's also Kaijus, just essentially a removal. Straight up removal gets rid of all the material, and you're still going to have to deal with the Ryzeal Cross, but at least Detonator is gone unless they revive it somehow with a Ryzeal Plug. And nowadays, I'm feeling, based on how I was playing, I would probably conserve the Ryzeal Plug, just so I can set it onto the board and get the revival and get more destruction effects off. That's just me. And then there's also like hand traps. Perulia Fueros, you just force people into a detonator line because they don't want to give you too many draws. Droll, mostly a turn skip if they start with anything but Bonfire. If they Bonfire into an ice, it doesn't really matter. They still get Detonator. And then there's also Ghost Ogre, Ash, Imperm, Veiler, everything there just to prevent plays. As for your Floodgates, most of them actually don't work alone. If they have X, they're going to send Meteorologic Aggregator, negate the problem, TCB Rivalry, sure. Turn them off and then they continue play. But if they don't have X, then they're kind of stuck in a weird position where they need the correct names already built in hand. I don't think they're very good. Most people don't even bother with it, so that's not really worth your time. And even if they go for like Skill Drain is the worst because they turn off their own Skill Drain. So if you play Skill Drain, they'll turn off your Skill Drain and get the search anyway with X as well. If they already have the correct names, they make it exciting and blow up everything anyways. Who cares? Some of them play Tornado Dragon, just in case. And of course, the best Floodgate is D-Barrier. Just turn, skip them by calling Xyz. Their counterplay to that is that they're going to have to find some way to throw Ryzeal Plasma Hole into the graveyard and play on your turn to get that Xyz summon onto the detonator. And the last little bit to prevent soft cheating or forgetting of restriction, maintaining game state, main deck monsters. Anytime they use a non-chaining special summon, it locks them into a rank 4 Xyz from the extra deck, so it locks them out. Ice doesn't lock you on the normal summon, but it can still lock you if you use the special summon. Ryzeal Cross, you can't double up on Xyz names, which is why they have to get rid of their own names. They can't go double duo drive if Ryzeal Cross is on the field. Ryzeal Plugin, only Xyz monsters can attack, so you can't just summon back a regular monster try to finish someone for a game. You have to go for an Xyz monster, otherwise it does not work. And then there's Digaris. Remember that they might have to skip their draw phase, main phase, or battle phase depending on which effect that they use. Ryzeal No, the monster they bring back is negated. Ryzeal X, they can't search if a non-Ryzeal monster is on your field. So these are the limitations of these cards, and you don't want people to get free advantage or illegal advantage because you forgot about all these different restrictions. Yes, there's a lot of restrictions in this deck, so just keep that in mind. And that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, leave it down in the comment section of which other deck you want to see how to beat TLDRs on. And until next time, don't forget to subscribe, ding that notification bell, check out MST.TV, and I will wish you all best of luck in your upcoming tourneys, and I'll see you all in the next one.